Hi, I'm Brittany, a neurodivergent mum and speech pathologist. This is Not Just Theories, where I share what actually works in my real, messy life. Because life doesn't follow a theory. Here's what I actually do. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Not Just Theories. I'm Brittany, and today I'm going to be talking about something that comes up in a lot of conversations about parenting and regulation, which is the idea of rupture and repair. So this episode, I'm putting it quite intentionally after the ones about the decision fatigue, the control and routines, and the transitions, because when you're depleted and overstimulated or thrown off your rhythm, all of those things that we've just spent the last few episodes talking about, ruptures are kind of inevitable. So I want to say that really clearly right at the start. Ruptures are not a sign that you're doing parenting wrong. They are a normal part of being in a relationship, especially under stress. So what matters the most is not whether rupture happens, but what happens next. So what do I mean by rupture? So rupture is any moment where connection breaks down. So that might look different for different families. So it might mean snapping or yelling or being short or dismissive. It might just mean missing your child's cue or responding a bit more harshly than you meant to. Another thing rupture could look like in some households is shutting down or withdrawing or being non-responsive. So sometimes it can be really big and sometimes it's tiny, tiny moments of rupture where you just missed a message from your kid because you were looking at your phone. It's a rupture. So it can be really, really tiny. Sometimes you don't even realize a rupture is happening until you see it, the land in your child's body, or you feel that impact, or when they're older, they might tell you. So importantly, rupture doesn't mean trauma. It's not the same thing. Rupture only really becomes harmful when it's repeated and unacknowledged and unrepaired. So that's why I'm focusing on repair today, because done properly, rupture and repair strengthens connections. And this is across all relationships. So I'll be really focusing in on parent-child dynamics in this podcast because that's sort of my main focus. But the principles I'll be talking about today, I really want you to see whether you can use them across all your relationships. So why do ruptures happen? Again, as always, I will focus especially for neurodivergent parents, but all of these can happen to anyone. They might be more loaded if you're a neurodivergent person because you might already be overloaded by sensory inputs. You might be more likely to be emotionally dysregulated. You're managing executive function demands. You're navigating unpredictability. And as a parent, you're running on very little sleep, particularly if you have a child who is a poor sleeper. Just so you know, neurodivergent kids are more likely to have sleep challenges that impacts on their parents. Not all children with sleep challenges are neurodivergent, but it is a significant overlap. But all of those things really, really stretch your nervous system. They stretch your capacity for patience. They make it really hard to take different perspectives. And it's really hard to do that responsive, gentle parenting that we read about or see or everyone tells us about all the time. So this is not about being unsafe. It's about being human. So pretending that you can parent without rupture just sets us up for shame because it is not possible. There is actually a lot of really unhelpful advice and ideas floating around, mostly on the internet and social media, that good parenting is about staying calm all the time and never raising your voice and never getting it wrong. And I promise you, I have seen it. It has affected me. I have compared myself to this stuff that I'm seeing online, and it is just not realistic. And the research shows it's not even desirable because children don't learn repair by watching perfection. They learn repair by experiencing it in the comfort and safety of a strongly attached relationship. So aiming for perfection is actually doing a disservice to your children because they're not learning this really, really important human skill of repair. Your child, even if you somehow manage to be that perfect parent who never ruptured, your child needs to learn these skills because they will be in relationships with other people and they need to learn how to do their part for repair when they're the one who ruptured the relationship as an older person, or how to accept and bond with someone when they are reconnecting after a rupture. So all of this experience in that safe home environment with their parent or carer is so key for your kids. I'm going to delve a little bit now into what repair actually is. So that rupture and repair theory is something that you might have read about, but I want to go in a little bit more detail than just a little catchy one-liner. So repair is the process of acknowledging the rupture, first of all, acknowledge that it happened, taking responsibility for your part of the rupture, reconnecting emotionally, and restoring safety in the relationship. So it's really important. Repair is not just excusing your behavior or over-explaining. It's not about forcing your child to forgive you. And it's really not about making them responsible for your feelings. So it's none of those things. It's about saying something went wrong and I am here and I care enough about you to fix it. And I'm going to slow down a little bit here because a lot of parents really struggle with apologizing to their children. It's such a common challenge. There are a lot of different beliefs that sort of can lead to this challenge with apologizing to their children. Some of the beliefs are things about whether it undermines the authority of the parent and maybe puts the child in a position of power. Some parents think their children might be too young to understand the apology, or there's a thought process of, they need to respect me and that apologizing might make you less worthy of respect in your kids' eyes. And for some people, it's not any of those things consciously. It's an underlying, those are the beliefs that inform whether or not they will apologize to their child. And some parents don't do it because it was never modeled for them by their parents. So again, trying to break that cycle of what happened to you as a child just because adults in positions of power didn't apologize meaningfully to you as children doesn't mean we need to inflict that on the next generation. So I really want to challenge all of those beliefs that might lead a parent or an adult of any kind to not apologize to a child or to someone they're in a position of power over, because apologies do not remove your authority. What it actually does is model accountability, because you are in a position of power over your child. It just is. That is how our society is set up. They are so vulnerable. And our job is to protect them where we can, to model strong, appropriate relationships, and to model this accountability, because adults make mistakes. We do all the time. And relationships can recover from mistakes. It's so important that children learn that you don't give up on a relationship just because of a tiny rupture. Again, I don't want to delve into adult relationship dynamics. There are lots of relationships that do need to end. The parent-child relationship, where there is strong attachment between parent and child or carer and child, can recover from the kinds of ruptures that I'm talking about. And it's really important to know that having power is not the same as having immunity from responsibility. It's actually the opposite. Your child is a child and they are a person. Children are not non-people. And just because there's the power imbalance does not mean they do not deserve repair. They actually need it more than someone who can advocate for themselves or leave a relationship where they're not receiving this kind of accountability and repair. The parent-child relationship when your child is young is a relationship that they cannot leave voluntarily. So they need us to repair that relationship because leaving is just not an option in almost every situation. So this is something that happens in our house too. I remember I have snapped at my children. I'm not proud of it, but it does happen. So nothing too dramatic, but like a sharp enough snap that I just saw her whole body shift and tense up, and she looked scared of me, and it was horrible. And later, when we both had a chance to calm down, I sat down and I said something. I'm not entirely sure what I said, but it was something like, I didn't like how I spoke to you before. You didn't deserve that. I was feeling overwhelmed, and that is not your fault, and I'm sorry. And the change was like immediate. She softened, she leaned in, she gave me a cuddle, and connection was restored. It was like this beautiful, loving moment. And it's not because I lost power, but because I showed her that she mattered to me. And that moment reminded me, repair is nothing to do with hierarchy. It is all about relationship. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a scaffold for what repair might sound like. So thinking of repair as something that really includes 4 key parts. So the first one is naming what happened. The second part is taking responsibility. The third part is separating your feelings from their responsibility. And the fourth step is to reconnect. So naming what happened is something like saying, I yelled earlier. Taking responsibility might sound like you saying, that wasn't okay. Or yelling at you isn't something I want to do. And I'm, I feel that in my body that it wasn't okay that I did that. You might say it longer or shorter depending on the age of your child. Separating your feelings from their responsibility is that saying, I was overwhelmed, but that's not your job to manage. So you're not blaming your child. You might have a little explanation of why it happened so they understand what was happening in your body and what your feelings were, but making sure that your feelings are not their problem. It's our feelings are our own problems and that of our therapists if we have one. But it doesn't mean you can't tell your child how you were feeling. It's just making that really clear definition of like, this is my feeling. It's not your problem to manage. It's just that like explanation of what was going on. And then that fourth step of reconnecting is that I love you. I'm here, and reaching out for, a cuddle if that's something your child likes. So you don't need to get this done perfectly, and you don't need a fancy language or a script if it's not something that works for you. But that real honesty and just thinking about it's not enough to just say sorry without saying what you're saying sorry for. There are a few common pitfalls that I have heard. I've heard these happen in the park. I've heard them happen elsewhere. I have either done or been tempted by some of these myself. So these common pitfalls are things like saying, I'm sorry, but you made me really angry. So that real sense of blame. Anytime you're sort of saying but is maybe a sign that you should be rethinking what you're saying. Forcing your child to accept the apology, like, you have to forgive me, please tell me that you accept my apology. Anything that's that pleading and forcing your child to accept the apology when they might still be working through their own feelings about it. So demanding that like reassurance that they still love you. Well, don't you still love me? Will you tell me you still love me? Don't demand reassurance from your child. Let them sit with their feelings and understand your apology and accept your apology in their own time. Don't rush the repair if your child needs space. And that might even mean like giving them more time before you make the apology in the first place if they're still really heightened about it and they don't want you to talk to them. Respect their space. And when you're giving the repair, don't rush through it. Go through it at a pace that works for your kid. And really, really don't force or rush an acceptance of the repair from you, because repair is something that you both need to individually offer in your own time when you're both ready to heal that rupture. And you can't force someone to repair a relationship. That makes it harder. So you offer your half of that olive branch, the genuine apology and the acknowledgement of what happened, and then wait for your child to take that offered olive branch. I hope that makes sense. If repair is really uncomfortable for you, that's quite common. It often tells us something about our own history, nothing to do with our own child or our own child's needs. learning to repair is often about unlearning that idea that authority is the same as emotional distance, or being vulnerable might mean someone will take advantage of you. If you've had negative experiences trying to repair a relationship in the past with an adult, it's hard to genuinely apologize and not feel like that's going to be ripped from you and held over your head. So there can be so many experiences people have that make genuine, true apologies and repair really hard. And I'm not here to tell anyone that that's not a problem, because if that's getting in between you and your child and your relationship, that's so hard. And it's really important to try and seek therapy and do some self-reflection and find what supports that you might have that can be so incredibly helpful with processing your own experiences with rupture and repair. And that's why we want to do this for our children, because we want our children to become adults who can take accountability for their mistakes. We want them to become adults who can genuinely reach out to repair when they have made someone else feel horrible for some reason, or they've done something that's hurt somebody. Teaching the art of a true, genuine apology is part of our job as parents, and we can't do it unless we're able to do it ourselves. And that might take some inner work. It's really hard. Parenting is hard. The number of things it can bring up in your own life and your own history, it's a lot. And be gentle with yourself. This can take a lot of time and a lot of work to get through, but it is valuable. Overall, the bigger picture about rupture and repair. So repair really is teaching children relationships can survive conflict. Mistakes don't end connection, and emotions don't have to be hidden. Accountability is safe. So for our children, this creates that sense of relational safety that supports everything. It supports regulation and trust and that longer term relationship, that when your children are grown and they're adults on their own, it's easier for you to have that peer-to-peer more so relationship than what you have when they're little, because you have treated them as people their whole lives, real people. They're not different to adults in enough of a way that means that they need to be treated super differently with this kind of thing. Children deserve respect, and they deserve to have relationships that both people are held accountable for their actions. So just to reiterate, if you've yelled or snapped, or if you've shut down and gone non-responsive to your child, you're not failing, and it's not impossible to fix. Repair's not ever a backup plan. It's actually the plan. You don't need to be a perfect parent. You need to be a responsive one who takes accountability and repairs the connection when it inevitably ruptures. I hope this has been helpful for everyone. It's a really tricky concept to get behind when you're surrounded by things and this myth of that perfect parent. Rupture and repair is so important. And like I said before, it's for all relationships, but our children have so much more reliance on us to be the one who does the connection, that initial repair, because of that power dynamic. It's on us to do the work. I will continue speaking about some of this stuff in the future, but I'm going to take a little bit of a swing away from some of those parenting challenges internally. And next episode, I'm going to be going to something also super duper important, but it's going to be talking about advocacy. So talking about how to trust your instincts and ask better questions, and how to speak up for your child even when it's hard, because it's something that's so difficult to learn if you're someone who's always been a little bit more passive, and to actually learn to advocate for your child and stick up for them, because we need to be their voice. So I'll talk a little bit about some things that have helped me become more of an advocate, and I hope that that's useful. So thanks for being here, and I will talk to you next Tuesday. Thanks so much for listening to Not Just Theories. I really appreciate you being here. If this episode resonated with you, the best way to support the show is to follow, leave us a rating or review, or just share this episode with someone else who you think might find it comforting or useful. I hope to see you back here soon.